Industry Cloud panel discussion on cloud adoption to benefit Saudi Arabia enterprises across the sectors. We're looking at talking about choosing the right cloud for your needs, private cloud versus public cloud versus hybrid cloud, challenges faced by enterprises on maturity when adopting cloud, multi-cloud adoption and modernizing information architecture. Also, we're looking at talking about maintenance and management of cloud computing architecture, also people as the biggest challenge with cloud adoption, and much more. Well, ladies and gentlemen, for this we've got our eminent speakers. First up, Fahad A. Al-Hamid, the chairman of board, Saudi Cloud Computing Association, Saudi Arabia. Well, Fahad is the founder and chairman of the board of the Saudi Cloud Computing Association and is also the founder of the first Arabic blog specialized in cloud computing, along with many cloud-based businesses and initiatives. He's an expert in the field of cloud computing with over 17 years of experience in the field of IT operation and banking. We're also joined by Salim Mohammed Baras, the director, Cloud and Digital Platform Solutions by STC Saudi Arabia. Well, Salim is the Cloud and Digital Platforms Operations Director working at Solutions by the STC since 2015. One of the core team members who has built the Blue Vault Cloud, which is powered by the STC Public Cloud. We're also joined by Abdullah Faisal Biari, the CISO of United Cooperative Assurance, Saudi Arabia. While engineer Abdullah Faisal Biari, the Chief Information Security Officer for the United Cooperative Assurance, is known for his expertise in technology and an experience in the cybersecurity department. He's a leader in the tech field, paving the paths of many known. Also, ladies and gentlemen, we are joined by Mohsin Raza Khan, the SC Manager, Nutanix, Saudi Arabia. While being the head of the system engineering team in Nutanix, Kingdom of Saudi Arabia and Bahrain region, Mohsin is somebody who's leveraging his 16 years of experience with digitally connected enterprises, technology ecosystems and regional partnerships to reimagine the IT industry in KSA and to help the organizations get the positive outcomes for their business goals aligned with the Vision 2030. We also have E. Karthik, Chief Evangelist, Manager in India, who's joining us, an enthusiastic and a passionate presenter, having represented Manage Engine solutions at over 200 plus destinations. He's somebody who's got 20 years of experience in IT and most of his time has been dedicated to promoting Manage Engine software. And ladies and gentlemen, this entire conversation and a panel is going to be moderated by Mohammed Ali Chalan, the director of for the digital transformation at Project Management Institute, Saudi Chapter, Akarat Real Estate Development Company, Saudi Arabia. Well, Mohammed Ali Chalan is a multidisciplined, motivated business technology expert, somebody who's focused on digital transformation, Industry 4.0, smart cities, and innovative contracts. He's a practitioner, author, guest speaker, and a researcher with published chapters, articles, and presentations. Well, with this, we present you our eminent panel on your stage and screen, ladies and gentlemen. May I now request our panel to now please put your audio and video on so that we can start with the panel. Now, remember, in the next 40 minutes, you're going to have some insightful discussions with being led and moderated by Mr. Mohammed Chalan to take it forth with his panel. Over to you, and thank you once again to all our panelists for joining us at the World Cloud Show.
Most welcome. Thank you very much, and thank you very much for hosting this event. It's really interesting to be here, and we are talking about a very important topic about cloud moderation in Saudi Arabia and how we are utilizing it. I will share my screen so that we can go ahead and see how things actually are moving, and then every panelist will start talking about certain questions related to the topic and how they will add value to our this presentation. The panelists have been introduced by you, so I will not go ahead again. I'm just scrolling the screens just to know the faces, and as well the panel objectives have been discussed. So we will go directly to the questions actually, and we will start with Mr. Fahad. Mr. Fahad, actually being a member of the Saudi Cloud Computing Association, how do you see the local trends to support cloud computing here in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia?
Yeah, thank you, Mohammed. Thank you for the event managers for hosting us. It's an interesting question, Mohammed. As part of Vision 2030, It has many strategic objectives. One of them is actually to develop e-government. The idea here is to develop a government service for citizens and companies to boost the digitization of internal government operations, to increase the spread and use of e-government services, to raise customer satisfaction rates, and to reduce the cost of government services. This way, the decision makers in the kingdom, they have believed the cloud can help achieving this goal. So they acted by they acted so to properly adopt the cloud. The kingdom have encouraged its adoption with MCIT's cloud first policy. In the kingdom, we have regulated its usage with CITC's cloud computing regulation framework. We have strengthened the environment with the NCA's cloud cybersecurity controls. We have governed its data with the National Data Governance Interim Regulation. So yes, we believe the cloud has the focus of the decision makers in the kingdom, and as we believe it's the current and it's the future of technology, not only in Saudi Arabia, it's all around the world also as well.
Okay, great. So actually, we see a very good governance framework as well as a lot of regulations that's related to cloud, and this is really very important so that we can go ahead and have it further advanced. Because I think it's the future. Everyone is thinking of the cloud because it can set up easily and it can add value to everyone. So it's great. Thank you very much. Let's go now to Salim. Salim, as looking from your perspective as a cloud solution provider, what is the best approach in choosing the right cloud for the needs? Is it a private, or is it a cloud, or is it public, or the hybrid cloud? How do you think, and what your advice to the clients and to customers?
Okay, first of all, thank you for this event, and it's really important that we conduct similar of cloud event in order to do more awareness in the country. But answering your questions, before I speak about the best approach in choosing the right cloud model, let me highlight some of the differences about the public and the private cloud. I will take here about mainly four aspects or four criteria in terms of the public and the private cloud. First of all, resources. In the public cloud, the computing resources are shared across different organizations, while in the private cloud, it is fully dedicated compute resources for the organization. Another aspect I would like also to highlight about it is regarding the cost. In the private cloud, of course, the cost is higher, and there is upfront investment. And also, in most of the time, there is commitment for the private cloud for specific period, like, for example, 6 or 12 months. While in the public cloud, of course, the cost is lower, and there is no upfront investment, and there is no capex as well. And actually, in the public cloud, you pay based on utilization or based on what you are using. Another aspect that I wanted to highlight it here is regarding the scalability. In the private cloud, the infrastructure in the private cloud may not offer high scalability because most of the time it requires some arrangement, while in the public cloud, it is high scalable and flexible, and also meeting the unpredictable workload demands. The other aspect that I want also to mention here is regarding the security and control. In the private cloud, because you own or you have full control in the compute node, so you control the batches, you control the MDT, you control the maintenance and extra. While in the public cloud, of course, you have the option to secure your workload. However, the control of the batches, of the maintenance, it is in the service provider. And also, I want to add one thing regarding the hybrid cloud, which is combining both private and public cloud, and there are many cases that it require for organization to go with the hybrid cloud. Like, for example, if you have core systems that have core or sensitive information that you want to host it in the private cloud. However, the supported IT services you can put it in the public cloud. So in this case, you combine both model of the private and the public in order to have efficiency and cost optimization of the model. And also there are other use cases for the hybrid cloud. Having this information about public, private, and hybrid cloud, this is one of the important aspects in selecting your public cloud. Also to know the industry regulation, because there are some specific industry that it mandates you to go with the private cloud, while there are other industry that doesn't mandate you to go with the private, so you have the option between both. Another also thing is that you need to know the allocated budget for your project. And last thing is that business need. So based on knowing about the differences between the public, private, hybrid, knowing the industry regulation for your industry, and also having the knowledge about the allocated budget of your project, you can select the best approach for your cloud decision for any of these three.
Okay, great. I have one question actually. What's the difference between the private cloud and the on-premises normal servers that we have?
Okay, and the private cloud, the beauty thing is that, of course, you will have dedicated hardware, and that hardware will be maintained by the service provider, and of course you can scale in that hardware. The beauty is that usually in the on-prem side, if you need to build the whole infrastructure, you will require the data center, you require network connectivity, you require also the agreement with your service provider for internet. So it requires lots or some of the arrangement to build it in your data center. While in the private cloud, in the service provider, all of these requirements is there. It's a matter of selecting the option. For example, you will select number of compute nodes that you need. You will select the capacity that you require. And the other thing, it's all handled by service provider. So maybe this is, I mean, just high level of the differences.
Okay, so great. You don't need to handle it yourself. You can have it with some service provider who will help you. Okay, exactly. Great. Very good insights. Now let's go to Mr. Karthik. Actually, while the cost of IT is spiraling, so what are the services that the organization look to move into cloud, and how do they ensure that these services are provided uninterrupted for the end users? How do you see it?
Thank you so much, Mr. Shalan, for giving me this opportunity to speak on behalf of Manage Engine at this event. So when it comes to moving services to the cloud, organizations have to look into various factors. So first of all, they would actually want to move their service management to the cloud. Say, for example, you have a help desk, you have an IT, and with increasing costs everywhere, it's more important that you actually find out a reliable, scalable, and resilient service provider who gives you all these functions on the cloud. It could be service management, IT service management, where it provides all the ITIL functions like incident, problem, change, asset management, and CMDB. And most importantly, just not ITSM, you should also think of expanding this ITSM functionalities to the other departments within the organization, which we call it as the enterprise service management right now. And all the functions which are wound around ITSM, like say, for example, desktop management, mobile device management, patch management, identity and access management, remote access. So all these are certain functions which actually aid service management to move to the next level. And most importantly, you'll also have to look for a service provider who helps you providing 24/7 monitoring of your network infrastructure. It could be your server, application, and network devices too. So to give a specific example, in fact, we have a customer in Dubai, a major construction company in Dubai, who has been our customer since 2015. They have moved their ITSM to the cloud by 2018 or 2019 timeframe, and now they are looking to move majority of their IT operations to the cloud. They are now looking for desktop management and patch management.
Okay, so we are moving to a new level actually of IT service management, which is called enterprise service management.
Yes.
And how you see this is happening actually with COVID-19, and is it was a driver for this?
In fact, we have actually seen more traction for moving to the cloud. In fact, Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, customers from Kingdom of Saudi Arabia have been more receptive to move their infrastructure to the cloud. Just that we are waiting for setting up a data center somewhere near the Middle East region. That's something which we will be waiting to provide for the customers. But moving forward, there has been a lot of traction from the KSA customers with Manage Engine to provide their services on the cloud.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. And let's now move to Mr. Mohsen. Mohsen, when do you are from Nutanix, so when we are designing a cloud solution, how you tackle cloud complexity and the customer requirements, and how can you leverage the architecture? It is very important actually to know about the architecture optimization in the cloud and the deployment, the cost, the agility, and the performance. How you tackle this issue?
Thank you very much. Yeah, so if we hear back what Mr. Abid said earlier on, is that one architecture does not fit all. So when we go to the customers and prospects, we look at their potential stage of adoption. Have they already digitalized their workflows, or they have moved into a complete digital transformation, whereby relying on the technology for their business processes? Then the next step that we follow is we identify with them to understand what are the services and applications that they are running, their business segments, their target technology areas, and we identify the predictable and non-predictable workloads so that we could advise on the placement for those workloads. So, for example, the regulated workloads need to be on the private cloud, as we already established the fact, and the elastic workloads which require the business scale, they need to be on a public or shared cloud. Then the next stage comes in where we have to identify the total cost of ownership for the next 5 years, where we could build a minimal possible version of a cloud that is based on the web scale architecture, a repeatable business model that is allowing the customer to increase their investment when they have realized the savings, right? Once they see this as a growing model, then we help them with standardization and security requirements, building an orchestration of their most repeated business tasks so that they could reduce their business man hours to rebuild, in order to rebuild and maintain the services that they're selling. So at the end of the day, our objective when we are working with the customers to reduce their cost, increase their performance, and make their infrastructure resilient and agile with their business requirements.
Okay, great. So when you are saying predicted and unpredicted services, how you measure each one, or how you define everyone, like predicted or unpredicted?
Yeah, so let me give you an example. The unpredictable workloads are normally in a public sector where the services are increasing, right? When there is a demand of a service or a business service that has been announced for the citizens, right? So that service cannot go into the public cloud, right? The scale out version of the web services, where instead of 1 million users coming in, all of a sudden there are 10 million, maybe let's say, connections establishing. So we identify this customer's segment first of all, because you cannot move the public sector information onto the public cloud. But in order to reach to that scale, you definitely need a service within your own private cloud where you can build the, the unpredictability factor into your solution. Now, when we talk about a geo-separated customer who have their multiple users across different regions, let's say, for example, one of their service requirement is the work from anywhere, the user workforce mobility. So For that, you need to have a SaaS service, which is sitting on the public cloud, where you can define this service to be able to reach to the users from wherever they want to access. So to identify between what is the data gravity or the data regulation, as well as the nature of the workload, and what is the business segment they are running is very important when we are designing a cloud solution.
Okay, great. Now it's clear. Okay, let's move to Abdullah. Abdullah, how you see actually the recent cloud computing behaviors and the emergence of important consideration due to COVID-19? Especially you are an insurance company actually. So how do you have some stories from your company, or what you can tell us about that?
Okay, so when we talk about COVID-19 and what occurred during COVID-19 and the challenges that IT personnel or cybersecurity faced during COVID-19 with the employees working remotely, some employees are available during this time, some were sick and actually had corona. I'll give you a quick story about one of my colleagues. He works in a small company. He has only around 2 or 3 guys running the infrastructure, running his servers, right? One of his employees was working remotely in his home country, and he had limited access to the internet, right? The other employee was here in Saudi Arabia, but he was infected with corona. So with that, he ran a Yara scan on his servers, and he found one of his servers to be affected with a 0-day attack, right? His employees weren't available to handle it. He had a loss of downtime. His servers weren't functioning and performing. His business team was unhappy. So with this risk, in insurance, we call it transferring the risk, right? We always transfer the risk, right? So when you use a cloud services, you're basically transferring the risk. Instead of you running this operational work, running this security, running the update and patches, you're giving to cloud service for them to handle these type of situations. So nowadays with businesses, everyone's looking at new applications, new softwares to develop. Hosting it in a cloud is probably your best choice, right? Another company is handling incident management, the network security, and handling your servers in total. So whether or not to choose running your applications or softwares or your servers in a cloud service, it's your call at the end of the day. You have cost benefit and you have the runtime as a benefit for you also.
Yeah, okay. So when you are using this, you have like resiliency, and like an insurance company, I think you have some regulations as well. You need to ensure resiliency. So this is happening for you as well. You are can't manage this during the cloud.
Of course. I mean, when we talk about insurance, we have claims that's going on as we speak right now, right? We can't have downtime and face downtime. We have customers and we have regulators on top of us. We can't face any downtime. It's a no-no for us, you could say.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. So now it's true, Karthik, we have talked a bit about COVID-19. So how do you ensure security is scaling up with the cloud and remote working infrastructure? Because we now know a lot of people are working from their homes as well. There is a huge attack. Some people are co-working from different countries. So how you are scaling up your security as a provider for cloud services?
Thank you so much for asking me this question. In fact, I have to get a little bit technical when I have to answer this. The reason is when you talk about security, everything boils down to the technical aspects of how secure you can provide your services to the customers. So first of all, during this COVID time when people are working from home and they're remotely working from office, so it's important that you have the endpoint security, you enhance the security of the endpoints which get connected to your network. So say, for example, you may have to bring in application control, data control, device control, browser security controls as well. And when technicians have to access resources, you may have to ensure that they access based on approval. So not everyone gets access to these resources at all times. And all the changes to critical services, devices, and business services, they can be done only based on approval. So any change that is going to be done to the configuration or any role access changes, any permission changes has to be done only based on approval, and ensure you have multi-factor authentication and provide a privileged session management within the organization. The reason is the sessions that your technicians do have to be recorded for audit purposes, and these can be later on used for any training within the department or within the organization. And single sign-on with all the cloud-based applications and services, so that you don't have the authorization provided to all the applications that you use. So this is going to be one single point where all the authorization happens. That way you actually reduce the number of endpoints for authorization. And you have to also monitor the user activity, the VPN connections that your users do to the organization. So you have to monitor the entire user activity. You may also have to automate the patches, ensure that you patch all the Microsoft and third-party software up to date. And finally, have some room for automation. So IT automation will actually give you no or minimal room for manual errors or security loopholes. So try to identify those activities which can be automated and try to push them using easy to use software from the cloud.
So we as a clients, how much we need to worry about the provider and his compliance procedures, his regulations, and something like this. So can we ask for this kind of information? Is it you recommend the client will go to every provider and search or search about such kind of information?
Oh, well, the clients should actually have a requirement sheet and ensure that the service provider is actually complying to at least 90 to 95% of whatever requirements that you have. And also ensure that the service provider does not deviate from the standards which have been provided by the government. In fact, when we talk about KSA, KSA has its own regulation for data privacy, has its own regulation for cloud management and things like that. So ensure that there is no deviation. Here, you cannot give any room for minimal deviation. So there should be no room for deviation from data privacy and cloud management standards set by the government.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. Now back to you, Fahd. Actually, everyone can recognize the government force here in Saudi Arabia for business activities as well for qualifying local cadres actually to fee and to fit. And this is very important because we need to have a lot of Saudi people who are managing this critical and infrastructure. So as a member of the Saudi Cloud Computing Association, how you see these efforts and what is the maturity level that you are taking today?
That's a good question, Muhammad. I believe in my side that adopting emerging technologies, just like cloud computing, will require two main things: a proper infrastructure, and the second thing, as you said, is educated or trained human resources. In the kingdom, I don't see any problems with infrastructure. We have a very good infrastructure in terms of the speed. For example, we have widespread fiber optic. We have 5G, one of the top countries around the world with adopting 5G around the kingdom. We see a good effort by the government and semi-government entities in addition to private sector. We are talking about now training human resources. The effort by these entities to train and prepare local human resources to be able to properly use the cloud. We have achieved a good maturity level, but in my opinion, we could do more. We could do actually better. That's where the Saudi Cloud Computing Association comes. At the SCCA, we saw a knowledge gap, and therefore we are aiming on bridging it by providing specialized training sessions and workshops, in addition to consultation services with the help of our partners. We need to gap this bridge. We have the ability, we have the consultants, we have the tools. It's available for everyone, and with these tools and with this ability, we could help creating a better environment, preparing a better human resources that could adopt to the cloud and that could use the cloud properly by understanding the basics of cloud, basics of IT in general, and be able to run an advanced and complicated cloud infrastructure. So I believe we have a good start. The maturity level is good, but we aim to a better maturity level, and inshallah, hopefully, we will do it very soon.
Okay, and how you see some and how you put some incentives actually for Saudi guys, Saudi young people, so that they come into this area, because this is actually this service or this kind of security and cloud computing. It has a shortage everywhere. So how you have some do you have some incentives for the Saudi young people to come to this discipline?
Yeah, definitely. Many government organizations or education entities, they are providing free of charge training sessions, free of charge consultation sessions, free of charge, let's say, work experience with other cloud providers, whether it's local providers or international providers. And the SCCA, the Cloud Computing Association, also providing the tools in our sessions. We provide the tools, so we can see there is an incentive. These kind of educations are almost for free, and some of them comes with the money. The students can get some cash just by winning a certificate or attending an eligible training course. So yeah, we have the incentive, we have the resource, we have the providers, and also we have the will. We can see now many people, I can see in my community at least, many people are willing to get dirty, let's say, in the field of cloud computing. And we receive many questions, we receive many emails and calls even before this session on how to start working on cloud computing. And we are trying to help not only with the training, also with the hiring of people after we training them. Yeah, so I see a good progress, and we are hoping, yeah, and 2020 was the year of cloud. We are hoping it will be much better by this year.
Yeah, inshallah, of course, because it's really very important, this topic, and have a lack of resources everywhere. So it's very good to have Saudian coming into this field.
Great. I totally agree with you, yes.
Okay, thank you. Now, Salim, actually, how do you value the investments in the provision of cloud computing services in the kingdom, and how you compare this with the region or international levels?
Okay, maybe as I mentioned, maybe in the last 2 years, we can see that the investment and the adoption of the cloud services in Saudi market, it's really high. And there are many aspects behind, or factors behind this adoption and the investment in the cloud services. I will mention some of the least aspects. First of all, the organizations across, all industry, admitted the value of the cloud computing, and how is the cloud is really enabler for their businesses. And actually, the cloud services, you can see it's a gate for many of the advances on the technology. Another point also, the presence today of the cloud, of the local and international player in Saudi Arabia with variety of services, which really support the organization from different industry to go with the cloud because of the different offerings today. Either it is IaaS or PaaS or SaaS services, either it is private or public or hybrid cloud. So all these different of the options available today. Another also aspect is the pandemic, which forced many or majority of the industry to be digital transformed, and cloud was the best and easiest way to move on, because maybe we know that building at that time during the pandemic, thinking about building full infrastructure, and we know the delay of the shipment because of the closing and the careful overall. So the cloud was the easiest option to go. Another also aspect that moved the investment and the adoption of the cloud services is the support from the government for the cloud computing. We have seen that MCIT released cloud first policy, which encouraged organization to move to cloud services. Also, another point in terms of government support, we have seen beginning of this month that government now reduced the cost of electricity of the data center, which offer cloud services by 40%, which really will encourage more provider and international player to be in the market. Another also aspect, the reliability of the cloud services and the flexibility and agility and the cost saving are key for many organizations to move to the cloud. And one more point I want to add on this is that the uncertainty that we faced because of the COVID-19 made most of the organization is to think about developing new services, a new offering to respond to the pandemic, and of course, cloud supporting them that not to develop the service but to go to the market, because as we know that in these years we are, staying in very competitive market. So if you have an idea and you develop it, if you didn't develop it in the next month, somebody else will develop it. So cloud services was really supporting the organization to develop the new services, to come up with a new idea in the market. All of these aspects made most of the industry to adopt and invest in the cloud services to be competitive in the market and to continue their businesses.
Okay, great. It's really interesting. Yes, it's really great efforts that we see, and hopefully, inshallah, yes, this year and coming years will be it's a cloud year, so you will have a lot of activities coming there. Okay, great. So now let's do to Abdullah. Actually, as a CISO, when you would consider whether or not to go to cloud, and what is the process that you try to use in this case?
Thank you, Mohammed. Well, when you bring up cloud, most people say, I have my business running on the cloud, I'm safe, it's in the cloud. All right. But the term cloud, not all clouds are the same. Not all cloud service providers are the same. Not all the security features that is developed in this cloud service provider is the same as the other service provider. So when deciding whether or not to move to cloud, there's overall a process. I would have to review the overall security posture, conduct interviews and documentation reviews to evaluate the entire cloud infrastructure, focusing on the cloud security lifecycle. Access and control management is one thing that's very important. A review of the incident management, SLA, between both of the parties, what's our responsibility, what's the cloud service provider's responsibility, right? We also review the network security and conduct a risk management and compliance review. That's focusing on patching, vulnerability analysis, and related risk management areas. So another important aspect of this is also the regulatory requirements on cloud services, whether you want to host it on cloud or not. So if you allow me, I'll go over a little part of the SAMA regulators on what they require when on cloud services. So this has to be a clause that's included in the contract itself. So it's very important to review the contract, review the SLA. So I'll move on to the SAMA requirements. So the member organization has the right to perform a cybersecurity review at the cloud service provider. Second point is the member organization has the right to perform a cybersecurity audit at the cloud service provider. See, so lots of companies, lots of organizations are missing these key areas. They're just hosting on the cloud. They're not sure. They're not doing any reviews. They're not doing any audits on the cloud service provider, and they just leave it on the cloud. And if something was to happen, and the cloud service provider couldn't obviously protect them or solve their issues within the agreed upon time, certain issues could rise, and you could lose business because of that. A third point is the members organization has the right to perform a cybersecurity examination at the cloud service provider. And one important thing is the exit strategy. Say, for instance, you want to terminate the contract. How would your data be? Will it be safe? Was there an agreement that the member organization has termination rights, that the cloud service provider will return the members organization's data, and to delete the members organization data on termination?
Okay, great. Actually, you have gone through this process because this will help a lot. And as we have some regulations here in Saudi Arabia, like SAMA and other regulations, so it's really very important. Okay.
Yes, it is indeed.
Thank you very much. Now, Mohsen, this is coming for you. This is the last question because we have just a few minutes left. So as a provider, there are some sectors that are very demanding and they need to adhere to plenty of regulations. How you see this and how they acquire this kind of cloud services?
Yeah, thank you. I would reflect back to what Engineer Abdullah just mentioned. There are responsibilities that the cloud service providers have to fulfill, and then there are responsibilities that the customers have to fulfill. Now, the industry-specific challenges that a customer is working in, for example, in a financial industry, SAMA regulations, in telecom industry, CIT regulations, these are the local regulations that the company knows the best how to respond to them. And they need to make sure that when they are picking up the service provider, the cloud provider, already has a reference of working with these regulators. So for example, if you are a bank, you would want to know that this service provider that is coming to you has already sold to different entities in the bank, and they've already met the compliances of, let's say, PCI, and if you're going in the health sector, HIS specific regulations, etc. Now on the cloud service provider segment, you definitely need to acquire the international security references and international security entitlements and accreditations like NIST and NCA, as we just talked about it. So all in all, it has to be built in the software development lifecycle of the cloud service provider services, and the controls that the industry specific regulations mandate the customer or the organization to do that. So when you combine these things together, I think one of the most important point to identify here is the regulations are meant on the data that the customer owns, not how they have specifically built their architecture, right? So data is always owned by the customer, and they need to maintain this, the regulatory compliance while building an architecture which will safeguard their data to be local, local to their services. And the potential losses that we have seen in the public cloud, it's always a certain percentage of your services that need to go on the public cloud if you're really concerned about those regulations, right? So that's the whole story of building a hybrid cloud, where you would keep your highly secured services and data within your own organization and would want to run or rent a public cloud service for your non-compliance or non-regulatory workloads.
Okay.
So this is what we see.
Yeah, great. Actually, this is very good, actually. So thank you really very much. It was really a very interesting topic, and we have a very valid inputs, actually. So I think the time is up for us. So I don't know if you have any final comments for 1 minute, then we have to close out. Anyone have any comment? Just
yes, Mohammed, if you allow me, in addition to Abdullah and Mohsen comment, it is important when you selecting the services, whether it is SaaS or IaaS or PaaS or private or public. It is important to know the SLAs of the services itself. It is important to know the shared responsibility, because when you're talking about public cloud, of course, maybe the hardware with the provider, but of course, there are certain responsibility in you based on the services that you select, and there are some responsibility which is in the provider. So it's important that to be clear, to know where is your area that you need to cover, and then what are the area that covered by service provider in order to have mature service in the market.
okay. So great, very much. Great. Thank you very much. With this, we will end this session. And thank you very much for your valuable input, and also for hosting us here. Okay, thank you very much. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Join us. Thank you all.